Welcome to everyone who has joined. My name is Ingrid Nye. I'm the marketing manager at Cambridge University Press and Assessment. We also have on the call with us Christina Naidu, who is our business development executive, and we also have Boitumelo Sefaka, our digital marketing lead. So I would just love to introduce you all to Kerry. Kerry, we're delighted to have you here presenting another early years webinar with us. And for those who don't know Kerry, she is an educator, a lifelong learner. She's been a school principal, hailing from KwaZulu-Natal, but raised in Joburg. Kerry has been in the field of education for over 2 decades. But her true passion really is working with young learners, and she is a specialist in early childhood education. She is a Cambridge primary examiner and teacher trainer. And so she is well versed in the Cambridge Early Years program. And she will be able to take you through this program, present to you an introduction to the resources, and answer any questions that you have so that you can understand how this program is relevant not only to the Cambridge school system, but to all early childhood development centers throughout South Africa. So I will not take up any further time. Kerry, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ingrid. I see we still have some people madly joining, so we'll just keep admitting them as we go. But thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you for being with us for this afternoon. I don't know, I'm actually in Joburg at the moment, and it is freezing cold and rainy. I'm sure most of you are feeling exactly the same way. It'd be lovely to see your faces if you can put your cameras on for a few moments. Very happy if just you want to switch cameras off. It'd be nice to just see some faces. Just a little bit about me before we get going. As Ingrid said, my name is Kerry McArthur. I have been in education for way too long. I absolutely love what I do. I love working with these little kiddies. I've had my own school for a few years, been a principal at a school, and currently our school runs from 2 years old up to grade 7. But I must admit, my 3 to 4 year olds, I think, are my weak point because they are the cutest. I've been with Cambridge now since, oh, goodness me, I was trying to count the other day. I think it's since about 2017, 2014, 2015 for examining, and then 2017, 2018 for training. I do the early years training, I do primary Cambridge, combined training, all of that sort of thing is what I do for Cambridge. Personally, I'm a mum of 3. My oldest daughter is already 24, made us broke last year by getting married. And my son is just finished school. He finished matric last year. And then my youngest daughter is now 13 at a school close to us. So she's in grade 7 currently this year. My passion, as Ingrid said, is early childhood and these kiddies, because if we don't give them the good foundations, they're not set up for life, and it's up to us to give them that. So I think let's get going. People can join us as we go. But please, we are going to have two moments where it's going to be a bit interactive. I'd love to hear from you. If we can't get you into break rooms, then what we'll do is we'll just chat online. I'd love you to unmute yourselves and talk to us. So as I said, there are 2 sections through the presentation that I'd like some interaction from you guys. But at any point, if you're confused about something, you've got a question, please pop it into the chat, and then I will endeavor to answer it. If I can't answer it this afternoon, then we will get back to you as soon as we can. All right, let me just share my screen and let's get going. Can everybody see my screen? If I could just have a thumbs up from someone.
I can see it.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, so we're here obviously to discuss the Cambridge Early Years. I'm here really to talk through the program that we offer, and very importantly, the resources that are offered. I think there's in many places in South Africa, one of the biggest things we battle with is the lack of really good quality and in-depth resources that are there to support the teachers. So I really hope that I'll be able to give you a bit of insight into that, and then obviously allay any of your concerns about the curriculum. So let's have a look. Sorry, let me just get it going here. There we go. All right, so we're going to go through 4 things this afternoon. I'm going to look at the ECD situation in South Africa currently. I'm going to look at the program overview, specifically the Cambridge program overview, the resources that we offer that are absolutely beautiful. And then Christina or Boitumelo will talk through the rest of the information. So if we look at the ECD situation in South Africa at the moment, this is a huge area of concern at the moment. Our government has obviously been high on the agenda. Government, they've been talking all over the place. For a few years now, they've been talking through the importance of birth to 4 years, and then obviously moving on from 4 years old up to grade R. So quite a while ago, they introduced the National Curriculum Framework. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, but for those of you that aren't 100% certain, we wanted to just give you a little bit of an overview so that you've got the background for how we developed the Cambridge curriculum. The challenge that we have is that a huge number of children do not go to preschool. We have this problem. It's an issue in South Africa where so many of our children go straight from home into your grade 1 environment. And because of that, they haven't developed the foundations that they need to continue going into the primary school environment. So the National Development Plan, the vision for 2030, was developed in 2011. This really was around the 1,000 days for pre-birth, early years, and in late infancy. And it just really refers to the fact that those early years, those 1,000 days, are so highly sensitive to the environmental effects that the children are exposed to. And we, as a community and as a country, need to make sure that we are sensitive to that and that we are on top of it all and we know what's going on and how best to support our kiddies. The National Curriculum Framework was developed. This was developed for children from birth to 4 years old. And this was really in a response to what the ECD sector was facing, what we were battling with. We needed some guidance. We needed to know what the overarching curriculum needed to be. A lot of us had our training, but at the end of the day, we would need to work with the government and the country that we're in. Now, we had a lovely curriculum for primary school, but the ECD was being left behind. And I think a lot of you will agree that the ECD is very often left behind when people are thinking about schooling, and it needs to change. We need to get to a point where our ECD sector is taken seriously. So the first step to development of the National Curriculum Framework was the development of the National Early Learning Standards. This was in 2009. Hopefully, most of you recognize that picture of the little book on the right-hand side. That is what the elders or the National Early Learning Standards was published in. This NCF is aimed at improving the quality of basic education. So we had a situation where a lot of us went through training. We all did teacher training in some form, but there were so many schools, the under-resourced schools, the schools that did not have the proper training, that they were just letting kids run riot, play, just do whatever. And there was no guidance for them. So it really was just an opportunity for the Department of Education to come alongside the people, the practitioners that are working with early childhood, early children. So we then, obviously, it was sent out to the training organizations, universities. Parents have access to it, caregivers have access to it, and it really is just to enhance the child's learning and development. At the end of the day, one of the most important things we need to remember is that preschool is that foundation for all learning. If we do not develop a love for learning in the preschool environment, we are setting the primary school years up for failure. Children need to love learning. And at the end of the day, we can do that if we're well prepared and we know what we're talking about. So my challenge all the time is just above everything, just make sure your children love being in your classroom. So if we look at the elders specifically, so as I said, this was part of the National Curriculum Framework. What they did is they broke it up into 3 different themes. The first one being, I'm a competent person. Now you'll see that all of this wording is around the child embracing this and making it their own. Theme 2 was, my learning and development is important. And then theme 3 was, I need strong connection with adults. Now within those 3 themes, they developed 4 different principles, as it were. So for example, theme 1, I'm a competent person. Principle 3 says, I flourish when attention is paid to equality of opportunities where I can participate to develop my own potential. If we look at theme 2, my learning and development is important. And we look at, for instance, let's say number 7, play and hands-on active experiences enhance my learning and development. Theme 3 was I need the strong connection with adults. And if we look at number 10, it refers to the fact that I benefit from a close and loving relationship with an adult. So as you can see, they've broken those three themes into the overarching principles. And this was the foundation for the elders. So from that, they developed the early learning and development areas. This really gave the adults that work with them an opportunity to just understand where the development areas are and where best to support the children. And by support, it really is around organizing activities that are needed from, as we said, from birth all the way up to 4 years old is what the elders specifically caters for. So there are 6 early learning and development areas within the elders. They integrate into those 3 themes and 12 principles. Those 6 development areas are well-being, identity and belonging, communication, exploring mathematics, creativity, and knowledge and understanding of the world. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already work with these. You know how it works. And all of this is already encompassed into your curriculum. So we're going to just be creating this foundation so you can see how Cambridge interacts with this. So let's just give an example for those of you that are new to the environment and maybe not have seen it as often. And when we look at the early learning development areas, and this activity I've chosen is specifically playing with water and sand, which I know the parents often don't like the children going over sand, but they must not deal with it because it really is such a crucial and important part of what our children learn. So if we look at the elder being well-being, out of that, just that simple activity of playing with water and sand, well-being is, for example, playing safely or developing those small muscles. If we look at communication, it's about speaking and listening. It's about understanding their friend and understanding what their friends are doing and helping them or working with them. It's about the structure and the vocabulary of the language within those interactions. It's also about understanding that if I pour sand on my friend's head, how is he going to react to me and how's he going to respond? So it's all about building those relationships with other children that you're playing with and with the adults that are facilitating. A lot of people don't seem to think that mathematics can come into water and sand. It all could be sorting, it could be classifying, it could be building, it could be around space and measurement comes into mathematics. Creativity is a simple one with sand and water. I mean, solving problems, it's making up sand castles, it's trying to figure out why the water pours this way and not that way. It's things like that. And then the final elder being knowledge and understanding of the world. This is really just around understanding and exploring time and place, exploring and investigating our world around us. So that's a very brief example of how the elders are built into every activity that is done on our daily basis with our children. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to pose 2 questions to you as a group. And for this, I would like you to be active. Somebody has to be brave enough to just put up your hand, talk to us, and let's answer these 2 questions. Firstly, what are the challenges that are currently faced by the early childhood environment? You're in this environment. What are you battling with? What challenges are we faced with? And do you think that enough is being done to address these, whether it's through curriculum providers, whether it be through our government, whether it be through our district's environment? Do we have enough support? Is enough being done to address these? And as I say, that is in response to what challenges are being faced. So if you would like to chat, if you would like to put it into the chat and typing, if you're not quite, if you can't speak or whatever, then put it into the chat. But I'd like to hear from some of you. Anybody? Are you all very quiet? Any ideas? What challenges are we faced with? We all faced with the same things. We all battle. If you get in with another ECD teacher, what are you going to moan about? What are you challenged with currently in your environment? You can type it into the chat or chat to me verbally. Anyone? Nobody? So you're all fine. There's no challenges. Us very much doubt that. I know that we battle with it. There we go. Thank you, Natasha. You said language barriers. Oh, It's huge, especially in our ECD, because these children come to us from so many different backgrounds. I've got a child currently in our school that came from Mauritius. So not only are we battling with our local languages, but now we're battling with international languages as well. But isn't it amazing at how quickly these kids pick up languages in a school environment? Guatemala, thank you very much. Too many learners and no assistance. Language barriers and lack of parental support. That is so true. I think parents are so quick just to dump their children and run away. We don't have enough parents that are really involved and active in their child's lives and see it as a opportunity to spend time with their children and learn alongside their children. Are you currently getting the right kind of support that you need? Teacher training. We need teacher training. We need more people that attend training and keep up with the local and the latest trends that are around. I agree with you, Ingrid. What about resources? We have a problem in our ECD environment where people put out these lovely resources, but have they actually taught in a school? The amounts of books that I've opened and I've gone, has this person ever actually spent any time in a classroom? How do they expect me to do this with my 3-year-old? It's not going to happen. So resources is a huge thing. Sally, thank you. Parents view that more formal education supports lack of understanding that learning through play. It's so, so true, especially in South Africa, that parents just seem to think that kids must sit behind a desk and do worksheets all day and write their names and do their numbers. They don't realize that just through playing, they're getting a huge amount of learning already. There we go. Some similar ECD seen as a play sense, and they don't understand the framework and milestones. They don't see the balance of what we actually do underground. Yes. Kim, thank you. Parents want to focus on the cognitive development and seem to dismiss the importance of gross motor skills, 100%, perceptual, social, emotional development. And don't you find that you have to explain to a parent that the children learn more about social and emotional development in the playground than they do in the classroom. In the classroom, they're sitting there, they're behaving. But on the playground is when their social interaction really kicks off. And that's where they learn the most. Do you think that we're getting enough support? Do you think more support can be given by our different support teams, as it were? Well, my personal feeling is no, there's not enough support, and we need to tap in to the places that are able to provide us with that support. So yes, okay. So thank you very much for your contributions. I really do appreciate it. And yes, 100%, I agree with all of your comments. And yes, Boitumelo, 100%, we need more supporters in our arena. And that is exactly what Cambridge is trying to do, is to come alongside you and address those challenges that we are faced with in ECD. So if we look at the program that is offered, so ultimately it comes down to having the best start in life. As we said, we want to develop a love for learning. These children need to want to be in school, because ultimately they're going to be there for the next 12 years, let's be real, from grade 1 upwards. And if they don't love it, it's going to be a hard slog. So the Cambridge curriculum is designed from children from 3 to 6 years old. So we've come alongside the South African curriculum. Now, the educational journey has to start and it has to get going. So whether that start is through the Cambridge pathway, through CAPS itself, which is obviously our government system, or other curriculums, something has to happen. There has to be a kickoff point somewhere. And ultimately, we're wanting to make that exciting for these children. It needs to be child-centered and play-based. And that's what some of you have said already in the chat, is that too many people don't realize the value in having something that is play-based. And at the end of the day, child-centered, as I said earlier, I look at some of these books and I wonder whether people have even spent any time in the classroom, because they actually don't look at whether it's child-centered. They're just so quick in putting documents together that there's no focus given to the child. From a Cambridge point of view, from the best start in life, we look at everything that we need for high quality learning. It's holistic. The balanced curriculum is important. We need engaging classroom resources. That is what is available. The development is available. As Boitumelo said, we need more support. Ingrid said we need teacher training. And that's where the professional development comes along. too many times, I'm sure a lot of you did your degrees at varsity. I know I did it back in the day when Wits education was still JCE or Johannesburg College of Education. And I remember leaving there after my few years and doing my stuff, leaving there going, how do I actually teach these children? How do I stand in front of a class of kids and teach them to count to 10? And that is where that ongoing learning happens. And that's why Ingrid referred to me as a lifelong learner, because I've got so much to learn still. And we as teachers need to continue learning. So professional development is key. And then very importantly, in with this Cambridge pathway, or the Cambridge side, is that assessment option to measure learner progress. We're going to get into a whole lot of detail though. So our curriculum is developed to be holistic and balanced, focusing on the whole child. Somebody said earlier that parents are so worried about the cognitive side that they're not looking at the social and emotional and the physical development of the child. We focus on nurturing every part of the child, that whole growth about the child, developing the whole child emotionally, socially, physically, all aspects of the child. We want to equip those learners with the foundation of their knowledge, their understanding, and the skills that are essential for their next step in their education arena or their pathway that they're going to take towards their final education. We need to give them the skills and the methods in order to meet those milestones that are needed. So every child's going to go through those milestones. There's an international list of milestones. We all know what they are, but we as practitioners need to help our children reach those milestones in the right way and not push the kids too fast or hold them back. And we can only do so with the correct knowledge and the correct tools at hand. We then obviously want to connect learners with the world around them. We've always said the world's becoming a very small place. It used to be 6 degrees of separation. In other words, you knew everybody within 6 different people. So within 6 touch points, you will have met everybody. That's reduced to 3 or 4. The world has become so tiny that the children need to hear about what's going on in the world around them. They cannot be isolated in their little bubble, as it were. The world is going to impact them, and we need to make sure that they're ready for that. We really just want to make sure that there's steps that we build for them for their educational journey is that foundation, and that is the way that the Cambridge pathway is really designed. Our curriculum specifically aligns with those international benchmarks for early development, and we really want to connect our learners with the world, as I said, and fostering that sense of curiosity and a desire to engage with their environment. At the end of the day, by doing this, the learning is going to become meaningful and relevant, and they're going to internalize it. If you go back to what those elder principles were, it was all those I am statements. I feel this. And that is what it's all about. It's really just connecting and engaging with the child and making them responsible for their learning. At the end of the day, we want to extend beyond the classroom and take them into the wider world that they are already part of. So within the Cambridge curriculum, our early years curriculum covers 6 different curriculum areas, and there are supporting learning statements for each one. The resources that I will go through just now provide opportunities for these activities. It shows you how to teach it. So the 6 curriculum areas are communication, language, and literacy, mathematics, creative expression, physical development, personal, social, and emotional development, and then understanding the world. Now, these are very similar to elder. You will see that, and we're going to show you a bit of a crosswalk just now. Along with this comes a really strong focus on assessment and support. So, for example, this is one of the activities out of the book. We can give each child a set of numbers from 0 to 10 with a glue stick and a strip of colored paper, and we'll say to them, please stick your numbers in order on the paper. So now what we're doing as a facilitator, we're observing, can the child recognize the numbers and can they put them in the right order? You then tells you as a facilitator, move around, ask questions such as which numbers 1 more than 6, all of those sort of extension questions. Make sure that each child has written their name on the back. So it literally just guides you through the steps. Now, the support that you may need to give there, it tells you there, children may need support with sticking their numbers in order and finding the correct orientation, because remember, they're going to put them all upside down and all sideways and things. And you're going to then help them with that. Now, so it helps you understand what support may be needed. But then it also says to you, you're going to have a child that maybe needs a bit more challenge, that it just needs to be a little bit above where you've given them. So here we can mark out a circle and challenge the children to stick the numbers in order on a circle instead of a line. You can see already that that is going to be linked to reading a clock at a later stage. So the links there are going to be really, really strong. So the assessment supports or the activities that are given to you, it explains the activity in detail. It tells you what sort of support you may need to provide. And then it also helps you to just give you a challenge on how to challenge that learner that maybe needs a little bit more from you. Now, we know that we already have CAPS. Everybody knows that by now. CAPS is the national curriculum. And we often go, well, how does this compare to the other curriculum? So we've got Cambridge that obviously we're talking about the Cambridge early years specifically. And we want to look at it as a comparison to CAPS and how they work in tandem. So both the CAPS NCF, National Curriculum Framework, and the Cambridge Early Years Curriculum both look at the holistic and the integrated teaching and learning, looks at the whole child, it's complete. They're both really good from that point of view. From a Cambridge point of view, we provide an English second language route for communication and language. And very often, this is going to work better with the children that have got a second language teaching environment, something that is different from their home language background. And something quite interesting, it might just be a different exposure to English that they've come from, not necessarily a pure second language. Some of our children in our classes, as you will have experienced, are sometimes third, fourth language English. So they definitely need the support from an English second language process. Now, in the older primary, CAPS does provide this. We've got English as a second language, but it's so important that the foundations are built. We've discussed that already. So for that, we need to make sure that in the early years environment, we're also giving them an opportunity from an English second language. Because at the end of the day, these children need to love the learning. If you can't understand the language, you're never going to love the learning. We do have a phonics program that is coming in a little bit later through the end of 2025 into 2026. This is going to cover early years 1 all the way through to the primary and all foundation second year. So at the moment, we do suggest other phonics schemes, but at the end of the day, you can, sorry, I just got distracted by a question. You can use other phonics schemes alongside the Cambridge program. Sorry, I moved my chat to the screen. Somebody asked me what age would this activity be for? So there you're looking for, because it's from 0 to 10, the children are recognizing numbers 0 to 10. You're looking there at the later 3 to 4 or early 4 to 5-year-old age group, because by the time they get into your grade R level, they should already be able to recognize those numbers and you should be pushing them a little bit further. And now, according to the CAPS environment, you'd be horrified that a lot of the CAPS say by the end of grade R, they must learn up to 10, but I'm almost certain you guys go up to 10 at a much earlier stage. So that water activity would have been aimed at the 3 to 4 level because it's within the elder curriculum. So Leandri, there are so many phonics programs that are available out there. Currently in my school, we follow Letterland. I love Letterland. And why I think I love it is because the sounds are so natural and they've got so many songs and resources that are attached to it. It just makes sense, Bouncing Ben, Annie Apple, all of those sort of things. So that's personally what I use it, but that's my personal opinion. A lot of other people have got lots of other ideas on other phonics schemes. So if anybody would like to share with us the phonics schemes that they currently use, that'd be wonderful. But personally, as I say, I use the Letterland, and I'm very, very excited to see what Cambridge is going to come up with because I'm certain it's going to be as strong. But for now, use what you have available to you. Yes, there we go. Jolly Phonics. I personally haven't used it. I've seen it. It looks amazing. But Jolly Phonics and Splash Phonics at their school. Another Jolly Phonics lovely. Time to Read is brilliant. I've seen it. I haven't actually experienced it myself. It becomes a situation. We're doing this for so long, you kind of stick with what you know. So we need to push ourselves out of our comfort zone sometimes. But yes, another one, Time to Read. Yes, lovely. So thank you very much for those ideas, everybody. So identity and belonging, this is all around who we are and where we are in our community. Now, here it's very, very difficult. Cambridge, as you know, is an international environment. We've got schools all over the world. Within Africa, America, the Asias, you name it, there's schools everywhere. Now, It's very, very difficult to develop one curriculum that is going to suit everybody. So what we advise as Cambridge is that for identity and belonging, you look at your locally specific resources. Now, this is even more important in South Africa because we just in our different provinces, we've got different experiences and different involvements in our, in our cultural environments and our languages that we speak. I mean, for instance, KZN, Zulu is a very well-known, very well-spoken language, but you can't really take Zulu into the Eastern Cape. You might find a few people that would understand it, but it's not the spoken home language. So it's so important that we look at what is local to us, to our communities. Just looking at Johannesburg, the difference between Randburg and Roodepoort or Randburg and Sandton are poles apart. So it's very, very difficult to apply a one-size-fits-all approach to the identity and belonging. So from this point of view, as we say, we recommend that you look at locally specific resources, look at maybe reader books that are specific to South Africa and our environment. I mean, just our animals are different, our cultures are different. So we want to make sure that we incorporate all of the differences into what our identity and belonging is. We do advise what kinds of activities will support identity in language, and you'll see that in the Let's Explore books. So there is already some guidance, but we want you to supplement it with our local South African sort of flavor, if you want to call it that. The Cambridge Early Years curriculum does not cover the second language, home language. Okay, so this is where we refer to, we've got English as a second language. We do not have the second home language. This is a requirement from the National Curriculum Framework, but from grade 1. So at this stage, the earliest curriculum doesn't cover the second home language component, but obviously, as we said earlier, English as a second language is definitely covered. So when you look at the beginning knowledge strands within CAPS versus Cambridge Early Years, beginning knowledge covers the history, geography, and science until the end of foundation, so year 3. And then after that, science becomes a separate subject. So at the end of the early years, ongoing, you will see that science becomes a completely separate subject. Now, that is really strong. We do science in foundation phase, but it is done alongside more of the life skills component. It's not really a separate subject. Now, at the end of the day, science has become so fundamental to where we are in the world that it's great that it's a separate subject at the end of the early years so that children get exposure to it really, really quickly. So here's an example of how the NCF and the early years program differs or more is similar. So we've referred to early years 1 being your 3 to 4, early years 2, and then early years 3. Now, early years 3 is essentially where our grade R level would be. So if you look at this, for instance, if you go down to communication. So early years 1, we just look at communication, language, and literacy. Okay, that's what our thing says. ELDA says, or NCF says, communication. Now, if you look at NCF, which is double R, under the age 4 to 5, they've got home language 1. We then offer home language, or English as a first language, and English as a second language. So you've got both options to follow there. And similarly with the age 5 to 6, early years 3, which is our current grade R year. Mathematics is mathematics. A lot of my children, I'm a maths teacher as well for primary school, and my children always say, "Ma'am, what's your favorite language?" And I'll say, "Maths is my favorite language." And all of them, totally disagree with me. Why on earth do you say maths? And my response is always because maths is not emotional. Maths doesn't feel anything. Number 5 is always going to be number 5, regardless of how you look at it. So I love maths because it's straightforward, simple, and unemotional. So that's my opinion of maths. So maths is exploring mathematics from NCF is very similar to the way that Cambridge has handled maths. If we look at, for example, creativity, the elders of the NCF refers to creativity. Early years 1 says, let's explore. Now, don't you just love that term, let's explore? Because that's what it's all about. It's really just making it at your own, understanding the concepts and just exploring the concepts within our early years. So here we refer to creative expression. Then into NCF grade double R, that's where we now bring in life skills, because as you know, double R is a little bit more formal. And there they've got the creative arts. Whereas early years 2 on the Cambridge side, again, is let's explore creative expression. And then in the grade R, it's a similar thing, life skills, creative arts. And then the early years 3 also refers to it as creative expression. So you see that it's very, very similar. The crosswalk between the curriculums are very similar. And it really is around trying to support the local curriculum, not necessarily replace it as such. So as you can see through this graphic, it really just shows you how the Cambridge early years sort of really encompasses the South African National Curriculum Framework. It already starts building into where SA CAPS is already in the grade R side, and then it gets taken over by the foundation phase, and that's where our stages come in as well from a Cambridge point of view. So this really just feeds into the South African curriculum. It aligns well with the South African National Curriculum Framework, the one that was, as I said to you, from birth to 4 years, and it aligns with CAPS for grade R, providing that local relevance and the international standard foundation for a strong, strong start in grade 1. That's all we want. Regardless of what curriculum our kids are following, we want to make sure that they've got that strong foundation so that when they start grade 1, they are flying. They're not floundering, trying to figure out where they are and how to do things. So it really is just about that alignment and that support for the local curriculum as well. You will see in our new brochure that this is the new graphic that has come out. I'm not going to go through this in detail. It's really, really lovely. But what you're seeing here is the yellow segments, the bright yellow segments that you can see there are the NCF development areas. The blue segments are the 4 CAPS areas. So that's where your grade R comes into play. And then the purple wedges show the early years coverage of the development area and all that subject. And then those icons there are really there to represent the curriculum areas and how they align with the checkpoint areas and or subjects. So you'll be able to see this in a bit more detail. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it, but it really just goes through those key similarities around identity, belonging. It's exactly what we've just discussed now. If you look at the key differences, early years, NCF and CAPS, NCF is more an emphasis on safety, understanding how to maintain health and keep well. If you look then at CAPS, there's got additional content. Obviously, as you would have all known, we've had to include robotics and coding now. And word sequencing and all that sort of thing has come into play in the grade R age. Then Cambridge early years, again, we build even more on that. And we provided additional content on not just the digital side, digital technology. We've got the communities, earth and space, and more specific content on managing feelings, behaviors, and self-regulation. And when we train, we have a whole section just on self-regulation because these little ones are so little, they don't understand impulse control and self-regulation. And it's up to us to help them with that. So that's really the key differences between the three, essentially the 3 curriculums as it were. So as you can see, it's lovely. I was really impressed when I saw this. It was such a pretty, I just love colors. Typical ECD teacher. I love colors. So this appealed to my sense of color. All right. So if we look at both the curricula, if we look at both remember early years covers, including CAPS. So when I talk about both curricula, I'm talking about the elders and CAPS in combination with Cambridge being on the side. So Cambridge builds that global awareness, that critical thinking, that flexibility. As I said, it's all around flexibility. It's being able to adjust things as we go and support the local curriculums, not necessarily replace them. For CAPS and ELDER, they embed that cultural relevance and it provides those clear developmental guidelines. Cambridge also gives the developmental guidelines, but this is where I said we need to bring that South Africa flavor into the Cambridge identity and belonging, and that's around the cultural relevance and things like that. Whereas CAPS and ELDER's obviously built that in already because it is a South African curriculum. Together, they build or they offer that balanced and enriched preschool experience. And that is what I think any of us is just trying to achieve for our children. So the recommendations for you as teachers and practitioners is I've got into 4 things. Incorporate, use, balance, and adapt. Incorporate your local culture into the Cambridge inquiry-driven activities. Use those elder domains. Don't forget about them. They are still really strong. Use them to structure a daily routine and assessment, along with what Cambridge has already given you and gives you that foundation for. Balance your free play with teacher-guided lessons. And in that, I want to say, make sure that we communicate with our parents because they don't understand the love and the importance of free play that we have. And then finally, to adapt. At the end of the day, life is about adaptation. And we need to adapt activities to the class's language, and their own developmental needs. And that is really where those activities form that beautiful foundation that Cambridge has been able to give you. What challenges are we faced with currently? We have differences in terminology between curricula. You kind of go, well, you told me about Cambridge, but I don't understand all of these different pieces of verbal language and terminology, and everything is a bit confusing. So it really is around the differences. How do we tackle that? I would suggest that you create that glossary for consistent use when you're lesson planning, and you do this as a team. So where you're confused, or where just every time you have to go back on, is what on earth did that mean again? Create it, put it in your file, and then you'll have that glossary for forever and ever. Another challenge could be that you're balancing to structure that learning with playtime. And the solution there is to integrate the CAPS goals, where that cognitive learning is coming into play, into the Cambridge's play-based approach, because Cambridge is so strong on the play-based approach that to incorporate those CAPS goals into it is going to be so easy for you. Another one could be aligning assessments. How do we align assessments? You know, parents in South Africa just want marks on a piece of paper. It drives me insane. I'd much rather give them a comment than a mark, but our parents want marks. So how do we do that? And this is really the solution here, is to design an integrated assessment tool between both the CAPS and the Cambridge facility. And we do provide you with a huge wealth of assessments. And I'm going to show you now what one of the ideas is for the assessment tool. So if we look at the guidance that I've put in place, or that I've suggested for schools and teachers, there are so many. There's guidance documents, electronic support available. There's those books, the resources that are available. It helps you with implementing the curriculum. The resources that we give you, the teacher guides that we provide, are really just around those approaches that are part of the Cambridge Early Years. It really goes into the active learning, that play-based approach, and then, as we said earlier, the multilingual approach as well. It encourages speaking, listening, and self-regulation. And in our guidance for you, you will see how we encourage that discussion and that collaboration. We provide the short, medium, and long-term planning. I mean, how amazing is that? Honestly, just for Cambridge Early Years to be able to provide that is wonderful. We don't have to recreate the wheel, guys. It's all there for us. You've got these templates, you've got the planning involved there, everything is available. We don't have to sit for hours doing the admin. Somebody's already sat for hours doing it. It helps us, or guides us, in learning how to create that safe, inclusive, inspiring environment that will really help our children. And this comes along with the concept of differentiation. Now, that again is another whole topic in the main training, and that is around how to change your lessons to adapt to all types of children that are in your classroom, because we all have the most amazing personalities and way children learn, and that differentiation comes out very, very strongly in the resources that we provide. So I spoke earlier about the assessment tools that are available. One very exciting one, and when I saw this, when I first started training it, I absolutely loved it. It is so, so strong, and it is so easy, especially for our children that love the technology. I mean, I think my child at the age of 4 could teach me more about my cell phone than I actually could. So this is particularly called Cambridge Check Together. It is designed for children aged 4 to 5. So why it's 4 to 5, why it's early years 2, is because they're still building those foundations up until that point. They're still building their vocabulary and their identification of shapes and colors and all that kind of thing. But we need that very strong assessment before the children go into the more formal year of grade R. So this is why it is perfectly positioned for children in that 4 to 5 age group. Now, it's a digital one, it's online. You would sit as a facilitator, or you would have somebody that would sit with the child one-on-one, and they would do this assessment. It takes approximately 20 minutes, but honestly, it flies so fast that the kids don't even realize they're doing it, because it really is game activated, there's colors, these activities, it's amazing. So it really is fun, it's engaging. It helps them to discover, to decide, do, record, and it helps you to record and report for early literacy, numeracy, and personal, social, emotional development. Too often in our curriculums that we have available to us, they're so focused on literacy and numeracy, we haven't got a clue how to assess the personal, social, and emotional side. And this Check Together helps you with that. So that's really a lot of where the strength comes in. So Cambridge Check Together, go try it. It is amazing. So, second discussion points, and I'm hoping that some of you might come on a little bit vocal with this one, but otherwise put it into the chat for me. Please don't be shy. I am going to wait. So I'd like some comments from you. My two questions are, how do you think the Cambridge curriculum that I've just tried to go through with you can support your current practice? Do you think that it can? And what more would you like to see from a curriculum? So you haven't necessarily been exposed to the Cambridge curriculum. A lot of you may not have seen it before, but with having seen a little bit of what I've shown you, what would you love if you could design your perfect curriculum, the curriculum that you know would work for you and other practitioners? What would you like to see in that curriculum? So throw your ideas out. Let's have a look and see. How do you think Cambridge can best support you within what we're offering? And what more would you like to see from a curriculum? What is your perfect?
I think maybe individual lesson plans for different weeks that
Yes.
are user friendly, and it will be a lot easier, especially for teachers that are not experienced and they don't know where to start. I think maybe that would be a good idea.
Stunning, exactly. And I think a lot of our student teachers come out of school, college and they stand there like a deer in headlights. They don't know where to start. And I agree with you. Having that in the curriculum is phenomenal. Any other thoughts, anybody?
Sorry, maybe I'm speaking too much, but
No.
another thing which I think that the children are lacking a lot is like music and movement. So rhymes and songs and specific movements that would be age appropriate, and the teacher could also use that, which helps with their physical development, with their rhythm, with all of that, but they're also having fun while they're learning. I know they do have that in the CAPS, but it's not easily understandable,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
100%, and especially to a teacher that is not necessarily musical themselves. Not all teachers can play the piano or can dance. I can't dance. I've got two left feet. But I have an amazing amount of fun time with my kids. And yes, music, and I'm sure you all know this, music and the maths brain are so interlinked that if we can get our kids to love music and get exposed to music, that maths brain's already developing. So yes, 100%, I agree with you. Music and movement is not seen enough, but where it is, people don't know how to use it properly. And we really want to make it part of our daily lives with our kids. I was actually quite sad the other day. This is my own daughter. I was like, Kerry, honestly, can't believe you. I asked her, I was singing a nursery rhyme, and she's like, Mom, what are you singing? I'm like, it's this one. She goes, I've never heard that. I was disappointed in myself for a moment there. I really was. Roxanne, thank you very much. You've said you're teaching children different learning barriers and how to self-regulate to help both children and teachers. And I agree with you. Self-regulation with teachers themselves as well are so important, because the amount of times I've had to take myself out of my classroom and count to 10 myself because a child is just doing my head in. And how best can we model that to our own children? So I agree with you. Self-regulation is huge. And those learning barriers, and that's where that differentiation comes in. As I said, with the curriculum, it really brings in that differentiation and how you can differently teach something to accommodate all types of learning styles. Do we need a diploma to teach in South African school following the Cambridge curriculum? So any teacher in South Africa, regardless of whether you are, which doesn't matter what curriculum you're following, you do need a teaching qualification of some sort. There are so many available out there, because that is official from grade R at the moment going up, and they are checking SACE records for those. And yes, it is expected that if you're teaching little ones that you do have some formal training behind you. But a lot of the early years, it is training on the job or training through professional development. And as long as you've got a really good, strong mentor behind you, you'll be fine while you're studying. So it is important that you do have some sort of formal training, but from a grade R onwards, the law says that you have to have the grade R qualification, which I'm sure all of you know by now is going into the degree. They no longer offer the diploma. Any other thoughts on this?
Kerry, sorry, can I just ask a question? It's not quite related.
Sorry, I can hardly hear you, Liesel. Oh, there you are.
Uh, um, it's not quite related. It's not going to work.
Sorry, I think maybe there was another computer or phone close to you with the same thing that was causing a bit of feedback. Do you want to try again, Liesel, or do you want to type it?
Kerry, if I can ask you, my question is not quite related to your discussion points. We've already registered for Cambridge Early Years, so we're in the process. But one concern that I do have is that traditionally, and I hope I don't come across the wrong way, but traditionally we've always thought that the British curriculum is faster. They push the children quicker than we do. So the expectations of, for example, a 45-year-old in terms of ability to read and write they expect those things sooner than we would in South Africa. Has that changed? Is it very much in line with what we expect in South Africa? Or are the children expected to sit down and write formally or read formally sooner than we do it?
Liesel, thank you so much. I agree with your question. It's a really good, important question. So I must admit, I was one of those. Up until a couple of years ago, there was when a parent would say to me, should I put my child in a Cambridge school or a normal CAPS school? And I would naturally go, well, you know, Cambridge is a great curriculum, but it doesn't suit all children because it's very fast paced and it's much higher from a sort of a academic point of view. Now, while the quality is still there, the Cambridge quality is still phenomenal. And what our children end up leaving with at the end of their high school career is exceptional. What they've done with the early years curriculum is they've made it in such a way that different countries can use it for their stages. So I had a look at the 4 to 5 grade book specifically, and we'll look at a couple of examples just now, but you will see that it is very much in line with what us in South Africa do expect of our grade R learners. And then, yes, again, if there's some activities that your kids aren't quite ready for, you can wait until later in the year. But I believe, having seen it myself, that it's quite good. It's quite balanced between what South Africa and the British curriculums allow for. Because I agree with you, they do start a year earlier than us, and that's only because they run the mid-year teaching year, whereas we run January to December. So our ages differ. So yes, the curriculum, short answer is the curriculum is designed and it is flexible enough to accommodate our learners and where they are and where they need to be going into our traditional grade ones. But at the same time, if you're already at Cambridge School and you've got the Cambridge Primary School, the early years curriculum beautifully feeds into the Cambridge Primary School as well. It does not necessarily mean you have to go into Cambridge Primary School. The early years supports our CAPS curriculum very, very well. So I hope that answers your question, but I encourage you to look at the resources because you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Any other thoughts? All right, let's move on. I'll give you an opportunity at the end, just if anybody else wants to ask a question. Please typing in the chat box, keep typing in the chat box if you want to, and I'll catch up those questions as we go. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual resources. That's essentially what you're interested to see. I love them. I must admit, I just had a look at just the front cover and I fell in love with these books. And I started working with them sort of end of last year, September, October last year is the first time I was able to get my grubby little hands onto a copy of them. I was actually training in Tanzania at the time. And I was so excited that they had copies of the books there that I could actually look at and fiddle with myself. And I absolutely love them because they're beautiful inside. So let's have a look. So the teaching resources that are available, they are available in print predominantly. They were available digitally. They were available digitally only in the beginning until the printing really came into play. There was that slight delay in the printing, but that's all resolved. The prints are beautiful. And as I say, they've been around since last year. The teaching resources, you'll see that there's a teacher guide and the learner books that supplement that as well. So you'll see it's all very nicely laid out. So there's the 4 things there. You've got the Cambridge Early Years teaching resource. You've got the Early Years 1, EY1, you've got EY2 and EY3. And you will notice, though, that you'll see the characters on the front of the books. You'll see them carry through. You got the monkey, then you got the cheetah that carries through all the subject areas, not just literacy or not just maths. You'll see the same characters appear all the way through, which just helps with that continuation as well. So if we look at the components of the program that is on offer, Early Years 1 comes in 3 learner books specifically. Then you've got the teacher resource book in both print and digital. Early Years 2 it's separated now, but so the 3 learner books for Early Years 1 covers all those content areas in one book, because obviously they're little. They're 3 to 4 years old. They shouldn't be sitting in front of a book writing worksheets. We want them to be playing as much as possible. So this is really just that supplemental worksheets that are available to them. So that's why it's just in 3 books. The reason for the 3 is because of the 3 terms. So that's just the way that Cambridge has designed it. But just because they're in 3 books doesn't mean you have to follow a 3-term process. What we've done is we've literally gone and we just work through book 1. And once we finish that, we work through book 2. And you'll find that you'll move slightly into the next term, but you will finish it quite easily. So you tailor it. And again, that's where that flexibility comes into play. You tailor it for the school that you're in. So if you look at Early Years 2 and 3 are identical to one another in the actual components. So you've got 3, term 1, 2, and 3, or book 1, 2, and 3, communication language. And if you go back to what I said right in the beginning, we've got English as a first language and English as a second language for Early Years 2 and 3. We've got the maths book, and then we've got the Let's Explore learner books. And then exactly the same is provided in the Early Years 3, which is your 5 to 6-year-olds. And this is really your communication and language, the maths, and then the Let's Explore. As I said, there's 3 books, but it does not necessarily mean that it has to be split up into 3 different terms. So this is what they look like. For Early Years 1 is ages 3 to 4. Then Early Years 2 is the ages 4 to 5, which is our double naught grey age in South Africa. And then Early Years 3 covers your 5 to 6, which is what we typically know as grade R. For maths, straightforward maths, communication language, this is your English and English as a second language. And then Let's Explore covers your physical development, your creative expression, personal, social, and emotional development. So if we look at examples of the types of themes that are included in Early Years 1, 2, and 3. So for example, Early Years 1 will talk about all about me, because we know the 3 to 4-year-olds are a little bit more in their own little bubbles. Early Years 2 moves into the friends, family, and me. And then Early Years 3 builds on that foundation into places near and far. So you can see how that just has grown through the years. We look at animals, there's food and things we grow, there's caring for others in the world, how things work. Oh, my kiddies love that. Wonderful water is one of the themes. So there's some beautiful themes that are there, and those are built up and grown through the years. If you look at the actual teacher resources that are available, there are teacher activities that are projectable stories. So they're digital, they're there for you to project if you've got that facility. There's activity sheets. To go back to what I think it was Kathy was saying earlier, you got the song lyrics and the flashcards to support that. So you got the songs, the music that you can play with the lyrics. And I have a lot of parents, strange enough, that say, could you please send the lyrics home, because they don't understand what their child's saying, and that's quite sweet. So I like to send the lyrics so the parents can sing along with their kiddies at home. There's slideshows for the Let's Explore section, and then activity sheets that then support that, and the maths and all of that sort of thing. So it really is very, very comprehensive. It helps the children, it helps the teachers fully teach that early years curriculum. Huge amounts of digital downloadable material to support you. And it really just follows that step-by-step approach in the first year. And then there's as I say, there's the downloadable flashcards, stories, lyrics, slideshows, and all the activity sheets are downloadable that you can then reproduce as you need to. If you look inside the teacher guide, apologies if I'm glancing at the screen, it's only because it's bigger on my other screen. So for example, I'll give you an example there of mathematics, week 2. So one of you asked for daily or weekly lesson plans, and this is really what it gives you. So it gives you a week's worth of activities that's clearly labeled. Okay, so they'll tell you what activities are available. If you remember going back to those learning statements, and if you look at the learning statements on Cambridge site, they've all got their little number. So there's learning statements that show how that learning is being developed in each of the activities that you've provided, or that we've provided, that you have ultimately chosen. So for example, one of the activities here was everything is in order, and the outline, it just gives you a brief outline because it's obviously in detail a lot further. And that's from begin to learn how to order numerals from 0 to 10. And that's the activity that we did earlier, or I showed you earlier. It then tells you what resources are available to you in that bottom orange block. It gives you the key vocabulary, which is so important. And then it gives you safety tips as well within the activities that are being offered to you. On the other side, if you remember, we referred to the theme blocks in the teacher resource, and this really covers those 5 weeks of teaching in those blocks, being 30 weeks in total, which more than adequately covers our teaching weeks. And there it goes into a bit more detail on the activities. That's the example I gave you with the support and the guidance, and then the challenges that it gives you. And then activity 2 was that is a sticky numbers activity, same thing. It gives you the resources that are needed, the key vocabulary, the guidance, and then the support and the challenges that are needed, that are offered to you. So it really just covers, there's 3 digital teaching resources, 1 per year, early years 1, 2, and 3. They're organized into those theme-based blocks. Each block represents 5 weeks of teaching, or a half term, as it were. And within each of those blocks is weeks worth of activities, and it's clearly labeled. So there are 3 times 20-minute activities per week per subject. The learning statements are very clear. It supports those, and it shows you how it's been developed in each of the activities. And then the listen and observe assessment feature supports you as the facilitator or the teacher in observing how the learning is happening, and that ultimately helps you in planning the next steps. So that's really how they've broken up the teacher resources. If you carry on going into the teacher resources here, this is the Let's Explore strand as well. This supports those learning statements from understanding the world. As we said, physical development, creative expression, all of that comes into the Let's Explore side. It allows for continuous provision and guided play. Now here we've got your guided play and the free play, and that both of those are important, and it does support both. As we discussed earlier, it's got ready-made slideshows for you. You don't have to fight with this. They are already available to you. And then the activity sheets that provide that language support if it's needed. The Let's Explore strands are then on the right-hand side there in the green block. It literally tells you which activity and what the actual learning concept is or content is. So for example, activity 1 is my bedroom, and this one is make a bedroom in a box. That's just your basic outline. The activity, the learning statements support is talk about the visual and tactile qualities of items that they discover and play with. And so it continues. The resources that you will need, it tells you that you need a shoebox, things to decorate the bedroom in a box, so like wallpaper, samples, magazines to cut out, paint, color, all of that sort of thing. And then it talks you through that activity. But what's lovely is it gives you model questions that you can ask as you're going. So it doesn't leave you to just let the kids play or to do this. It helps you and guides you as to what sort of, how you can get communication going and discussion going. And this really is just around helping you save time and spending more time with your kids and less time behind your computer trying to plan. The play-based approach, as we discussed, is hugely important through Cambridge. Our resources include that continuous provision. The features at the beginning of each week support it. It includes how to set up different areas of your classroom with ideas for the adults or the facilitators to guide the play towards those learning statements. And then all those lesson ideas are in clear language with those model questions. So for those students that are brand new, or anybody that's brand new to the environment, the curriculum set out and the teaching resource is straightforward, it's simple, There's not huge learning needed here. It really is. It's self-guided. It's there available to you, and it's simple for people to understand without getting themselves completely confused and trying to spend too much time on it. So if you look at the learner books, we've discussed this. They've been available since about August 2024. As I say, they are beautiful. The early years 1 books, 1A, B, and C, they're approximately 32 pages each. And then, as I say, you go into the other years, other subjects, and you will see, if you can look at the 2 middle ones, you've got the early years, the pink book and the purple book, you can see those character, the cheetah that is carrying over. So here, the core offering, we've got the teacher resource. It comes out termly, and then you want to, there's various covers that you can easily identify them. As I say, early years 1 is all combined into 1 book, and then 2 and 3, the books are split out by subject. As I say, the print version of the teacher's resources are available. You do not need to be a Cambridge school to have these resources. That's what I loved about it, is you can use these resources as a non-Cambridge school. And the support is the same. The teacher resource is the same. It's there for you to supplement what you already have. So I encourage you to use it even if you're not a Cambridge school. So if we look into the actual maths books or the different books, it helps learners develop their maths skills through play-based activity, things like counting, measuring, things like this. This is what the inside of the book looks like. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Again, it links back to that block, the home and buildings. It talks about counting and writing, which is where the activity is that comes to support this page. They're written with engaging illustrations. And then right at the bottom there, where it says for practitioners, if you can't read it on the screen, it literally says, look at the jungle scene together. Children count the animals and write the number in each box. So it really is straightforward. It tells you on the page what to do. So it's helpful. Again, planning is just so simple. We don't necessarily expect them to complete all these activities all the time, but they are there to be worked on independently as well. They are meant to be engaging. They're meant to be full of illustrations. But obviously, the young kiddies will need some support in these books. So communication and language. I love this orangutan. He's so cute. He really appeals to me. So this refers to, we look at international fiction and non-fiction text, engaging activities, really about building that important reading and writing skills. So here again, lovely, beautiful graphics. As I say, it covers the international fiction and non-fiction texts are used. This one is around the communication and language, so it contains print versions of the stories. And then the learner book activities support those stories and the learning statements. So the stories are just beautifully laid out. On the Let's Explore side, when we look at understanding the world, here we're looking at the physical, personal, social, emotional development. We're wanting them to learn through activities like matching, drawing, sticker activities, play, all of that sort of thing. So this is the Let's Explore range. Again, gorgeous activities. Now, this is lovely. This is a sticker book. So here the practitioner block says, look at the picture together and discuss the buildings and people, show the stickers. Discuss with the children where the stickers go on the page. Children stick the matching stickers in place. Ask the children, what do you think this building is made from? Who do you recognize from our community? And encourage children to find Jerry in the picture. So here they're talking about find that character, which is that little orangutan, and he's obviously up top right, hanging off the building, the hospital. So that's why I was saying those characters go through all the books, which I just love. And the kids love recognizing those characters. Once they get exposed to them, they start looking for them all over the place. So you can see here that the pictures are designed in such a way that where the stickers are to be placed, the actual picture underneath that guides them in giving them a very, very faint version of the picture or the sticker. And then they take those stickers and they put them on top. So that really is just what the books look like, how beautiful they are. They're colorful, they're vibrant, but they're simple enough. But what I particularly love is that even your assistant teacher can pick up these books and work with a child because the guidance is on the page for you. Now, as I said, this does not have to be only for a Cambridge school. We've used them in all sorts of different environments. They support our curriculum in South Africa, and it really is just an opportunity for you to use this curriculum inside your own school without having to follow the Cambridge curriculum going on. So the resources are beautiful. They don't specifically only for Cambridge. They support the whole curriculum, the CAPS and the elders as well. So yes, okay. So those are the books. I hope you love them. I love the teacher resource as well because I don't have to reinvent the wheel that way. That is pretty much it from me on the slideshow. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see my face a bit bigger. Has anybody got any questions other than what you've put in the chat? I see Liesel did ask, do you have to use the books only if you're registered with Cambridge? So if you're registered with Cambridge, do you have to use the books? Now, the short answer is no, you wouldn't have to use it, but I would suggest that you do because the curriculum supports you in that way. So the books are there, they're not expensive. They are really they're accessible by so many areas, and I would suggest that you use them if you're following the Cambridge curriculum, especially going into your primary school. These particular books you'll see carry through all the way through. So while they can be used to support a South African curriculum, they are designed to also support the Cambridge curriculum. So I would suggest that you use them just to keep continuity going as well. Any other thoughts or questions from anywhere? Christina Boitamelo, are you? Sorry, I don't know the shipping question. Christina, are you able to answer where they are shipped from? I don't know if Christina's still on the call. As far as
I'll try to answer the best I can. Christina will be able to answer better. They are shipped from the UK, but they are available in stock at the moment. And you can either order them through your preferred bookseller or from the Cambridge office in Cape Town. I'll put that email into the chat now so that you can see that if you have any further queries.
We like to use the books in the training. I know we've got training coming up in South Africa within the next couple of months, and early years is one of the courses that is being run. And I love to have the books with me because then it gives the teachers the opportunity to go through them because they are really, I can't explain to you how beautiful they are. They're such good quality. And I'm not saying it just because I'm here on behalf of Cambridge. As a teacher, I'm very critical over what I use. And I particularly love these books. They're just so pretty. Any other questions or thoughts? There we go. Sally, can the teacher resource books be easily used without the learner books? 100% it can be because the teacher resource book is there to guide the curriculum. Obviously, there's so many activities that are supported within the learner books. But if for some reason for instance, you've had a week where the kids have just been stuck in their books the whole week and they've been stuck in a classroom because it's been raining like it is all day, you can still use the teacher resource and the guide to do other curriculum areas. The activities there are not only for the books, they are across the board. And as I say, Cambridge is very, very strong on the play-based curriculum. So you'll see the teacher resource is heavy on incorporating play into your work, into the daily routine, as it were. So yes, you can use the teacher resource outside of the learner books, but the learner books definitely support the teacher resource, and you will see it referenced all the time in the teacher resources. So give you an idea of the cost of a set. I know that Cambridge can definitely send that through to you. Ingrid or Christine, I'm not sure who it was, has put the email address in the chat. So it's orders@cup.co.za. And then they are going to send out the digital brochure, that one image that I brought with the purple and yellow that I really liked. They are going to send out the digital brochure as well. So you'll have the contact details in there. Any other questions or thoughts?
If we want to come to the what are they? You said that they've got some type of a training course going on. If we want to do that and we want to be part of that, what would be the steps to go ahead to be part of that?
So if you go onto the main Cambridge website, there is a professional development area. And that is where you would register for the course through that. So it's very, very easy, straightforward. And then it is handled by the South African office because it's obviously in South Africa. So they will handle it. I'm not sure whether Ingrid or Christina or somebody can maybe put the link up. But as I say, if you go onto, even if you just Google, I did it the other day because I was looking for something. I went Cambridge Professional Development and it brought up the page that I needed to go onto.
Hi, Kerry. It's Terry. I'll put it in the chat now for South Africa, right? Elias
Yes,
training.
South Africa. Wonderful. Yes, thank you very much, Terry. And it is being held in Joburg, which is wonderful. Last year or the year before, it was in Cape Town, which is a bit far, but it is in Joburg. So, and I'm going to be there. So I'd love to meet all of you at the training. It'll be great. Thanks, Terry.
Sure, Kerry.
Any other questions or thoughts? Well, look, the Cambridge team is open for chats. If you need to find out anything, you think of something as you're driving home today, please just drop them an email, phone them, get hold of them. They'll happily help you. I'll just hand over briefly back to the Cambridge team. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Kerry,
you very much.
sorry, if I can just jump in there to answer the last participant. The next training is actually in Harare in May. For March, we're not having early years in Johannesburg. I'm just on the calendar now. So we do welcome teachers to go between countries. Kerry will tell you we're always having teachers from Zambia, Botswana attending in South Africa or in Zimbabwe. So I'll put it in the chat, but for now we're only having it face-to-face in Harare, but it is available virtually as well. There you can do it from the comfort of your own school.
Thanks very much.
I know there's other training happening as well. I'm just not sure what the courses are, but please just have a look at that professional development and keep an eye on it. And if you find that you want something, please get hold of your Cambridge coordinator, your team, and let them know that you're looking for something. And then obviously it's something that we can keep in mind going forward. But thank you very much. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Kerry. That was really interesting. I know a fair bit about the program and the resources, and I was still captivated. So really appreciate your engagement and the information. And thank you everyone else as well for your interesting comments and questions. Terry Sai, thank you so much for sharing. You'll be sharing the link shortly to the PD. I'm sure lots of people will be interested in that. And then, of course, we will follow up this webinar with an email that will include some of the details that you might need to access the brochure, to access the prices, and with some key contact information for you. But I would love to just encourage you, before you do get that, please do fill in the survey. It is really short, I promise, just to help us know what works for you, what you want to know more. And then we can also stay in touch with you after that. So if there are no further questions for this webinar, you are welcome to follow up at any time via any of the other channels with questions as you have them. And I think if that's that, then everyone has just earned themselves an extra 40 minutes in their day.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.